People think being hated is painful. They're wrong. Sometimes, being treated like you don't exist hurts more. For 26 years, I had lived inside Blackridge Pack, but nobody called me Sylvan Reed. To them, I was simply the traitor's son. My father had been publicly executed 17 years ago for betraying the pack. His property was confiscated, his name erased, and somehow, his crime became mine. I cleaned the pack house, served dinners I wasn't allowed to attend. At night, I slept in a converted storage room, while distant relatives lived inside the house that once belonged to my parents. Even my wolf embarrassed them. I couldn't shift completely. My omega scent was barely detectable. They called me defective. But there was one person who made me believe I might still be worth choosing. Garrick Thorne, the alpha heir. Behind locked doors, Garrick kissed me, held me, whispered that nobody understood him like I did. In public, he barely knew my name. I accepted it because I loved him, until the engagement announcement. Garrick Thorne and Corvin Hale. I confronted him that night. You could have told me. Garrick laughed. Told you what? That you were choosing someone else. His expression turned almost amused. You? He stepped closer. You actually thought I'd choose you. Something inside me broke. 3 days later, Blackridge's alpha died unexpectedly. Everyone assumed Garrick would inherit leadership. Instead, black vehicles rolled through the pack gates. Armed men emerged first. Then Roman Dorelio stepped out. Alpha, Mafia boss. The man entire packs whispered about. Everyone rushed forward to impress him. I stayed behind the servants. Roman walked past Garrick, past Corvin, past every beautiful omega waiting to be noticed, then stopped, directly in front of me. His dark eyes studied my face. Your name. The courtyard became silent. Sylvan. Roman glanced toward the elders, then back at me. You'll sit beside me tonight. And suddenly, everyone who had spent years pretending I didn't exist was staring. By dinner, everyone in Blackridge hated me more than usual. I could feel their stares as I entered the great hall. Roman sat at the head table. The chair beside him was empty, waiting for me. Corvin looked insulted. The elders looked furious. Garrick looked murderous. He cornered me before I reached the table. Don't embarrass yourself. I stopped. Excuse me? Roman doesn't want you. His voice lowered. He's using you. The words hurt, because part of me believed them. Why would the most powerful alpha in the territory choose me? Roman wasn't affectionate during dinner. He barely spoke. Instead, he watched. Then, a territorial map was brought before the council. Roman pointed toward the eastern boundary. I'll authorize these borders tomorrow. Every elder immediately agreed. I stared at the map. Something was wrong. I tried remaining silent, then remembered my father's lessons. That boundary is incorrect. The hall froze. Garrick stood. Know your place. Roman raised one hand. Silence. He looked at me. Explain. I approached the map. That river changed course 11 years ago. Under old pack law, the original riverbed remains the legal boundary. One elder scoffed. Impossible. It's written in the Blackridge Territorial Charter. Roman's mouth curved slightly. I know. Everyone stared. He moved the marker back to its correct position. I changed it myself. My heart skipped. It was a test? Yes. Roman looked around the table. Every person here approved something they should have known was wrong. Then his eyes returned to me, except the servant. Nobody spoke. Later, Roman stopped me outside the hall. Who taught you territorial law? My father. Something changed in his expression. What else did he teach you? I hesitated. How to recognize when powerful men are lying. For the first time since arriving, Roman laughed. But as he watched me walk away, his amusement disappeared. Because Roman hadn't come to Blackridge searching for an omega. He had come searching for a murderer. And somehow, my dead father was connected to the reason why. The next morning, Roman ordered me into another council meeting. Not to serve drinks, to sit. The elders hated that. Roman seemed to enjoy it. He placed old financial ledgers before me. Anything unusual? Within minutes, I found payments disguised as livestock purchases. But Blackridge stopped raising cattle 12 years ago. Roman's eyes sharpened. Later, 3 guards entered. Without looking up, I said, "The second one isn't Blackridge." Everyone stared. The guard froze. "How did you know?" Roman asked. "His scent. He's masking it." Roman smiled faintly. Garrick didn't. That afternoon, he cornered me. "You're enjoying this." "Enjoying what?" "Roman. Making you feel important." His voice turned cruel. "When he's finished using you, you'll return to where you belong. My storage room." For once, I didn't answer. That evening, I discovered my belongings being moved. I rushed upstairs. "What are you doing?" Roman stood inside a proper bedroom. "You'll sleep here. I don't need charity. This isn't charity." He closed the door, then placed a medical report on the table. Blackridge's alpha didn't die naturally. I stared at him. He was poisoned. Roman pointed to the toxin analysis. My stomach tightened. "I've seen that name before. I know." Roman produced another file. The date was 17 years earlier, the night my father was arrested. The same rare poison had been discovered then. I looked up slowly. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because your father once saved my father's life." Roman's voice softened, and I've spent months reopening his case. My hands began trembling. Why? Because the evidence never proved he betrayed anyone. The room suddenly felt too small. For 17 years, I'd carried another man's crime like a brand. Roman stepped closer. "Sylvan, I don't believe your father was a traitor." I couldn't breathe. Because if Roman was right, then someone had murdered my father. And whoever did it had spent 17 years making certain I never became powerful enough to ask why. I stared at Roman. "Say it again." His expression didn't change. "Your father was innocent." My knees nearly gave out. Roman placed another file before me. 17 years earlier, my father had discovered several Blackridge elders selling vulnerable pack members to trafficking networks. Omegas, orphans, even abandoned pups. The profits were hidden inside legitimate pack businesses. He planned to expose them, Roman said. But they discovered what he knew first. They fabricated evidence, called him a traitor, executed him publicly, then confiscated everything he owned, including the house where I'd been born. I remembered standing in that courtyard as a child, while adults spat at my father's name. "Why keep me alive?" I whispered. Roman's jaw tightened. Because a powerless child wasn't a threat. My chest hurt. 17 years of humiliation. Because powerful men needed their lie protected. Then Roman said something stranger. "Your father left evidence." I looked up. "Where?" "With you." I almost laughed. "I own nothing." Roman's gaze dropped toward my collarbone. That scar. My fingers instinctively touched it. I'd had the strange mark for as long as I could remember. The elders said I injured myself after father's execution. They lied. A trusted doctor scanned the area that evening. The image appeared on the monitor. Something tiny rested beneath my skin. A chip. Encrypted. My father's final insurance policy. My hands shook as I stared at it. All these years, I'd been carrying the evidence that could destroy them. Roman stood beside me. "Once they realize we've found this, everything changes. Let them come." Roman turned toward me. For the first time, I didn't feel like Blackridge's defective Omega. I felt angry, dangerously angry. Roman's expression hardened. "Don't underestimate them, Sylvan. They murdered your father to protect this secret." His eyes dropped toward the chip. "And if they discover you can open that archive," he paused, "they'll kill you too." Outside the medical room, unseen by either of us, someone quietly stepped away from the door and went directly to warn the elders. The next evening, Garrick came to my room. His eyes were red. "I know about your father." I stiffened. "How?" The elders are panicking. Then Garrick did something I never expected. He cried, "I'm sorry, Sylvan. For years I'd imagined hearing those words. I was a coward," he whispered. "Corvin was political. You were always the one I wanted. My heart betrayed me by aching." Garrick touched my face. "We can expose them together." Then he kissed my forehead. For one dangerous moment, I believed him. He handed me tea. "Drink. You're shaking." 20 minutes later, the room began spinning. I looked at the empty cup, then at Garrick. No. His eyes wouldn't meet mine. "I'm sorry." I woke restrained inside an abandoned warehouse. 3 elders stood before me. Garrick stood beside them. Elder Voss smiled. "Give us the archive password." "I don't know it." "Then you'll help us find it." I looked at Garrick. "Why?" His jaw tightened. "They promised to confirm me as Blackridge's permanent alpha." There it was. The truth. For years, I'd begged silently for Garrick to choose me. Tonight, he finally had. He chose power. "You sold me." "Don't make this harder." I laughed bitterly. "You always say that when you're destroying someone." Voss grabbed my collar. "The password." "No." His hand lifted. The warehouse doors exploded inward. Armed investigators flooded the room. Then Roman entered. His expression was terrifying. Garrick stumbled backward. "Roman, I can explain." Roman ignored him. He came directly to me and cut my restraints. Everyone waited for the Mafia boss to order blood. Instead, Roman looked into my eyes. "What do you want me to do?" I froze. Nobody had ever asked me that.
I looked at Garrick.
Then the elders. "Don't kill them." Garrick almost smiled. I wasn't finished. "Let them live long enough." I stood on shaking legs. To answer for everything. And for the first time, the people who had controlled my entire life looked afraid of me. 3 days later, the archive opened. And Blackridge's entire history began bleeding secrets. Trafficking payments, stolen inheritances, extortion, fabricated criminal charges, names of Omegas who had simply disappeared. My father's evidence had recorded everything, even my inheritance. The elders had stolen millions from me. Roman placed the financial report before me. "You could take what's yours and leave Blackridge forever." For one moment, I imagined it. A new city, no whispers, no traitor's son. Then I remembered my storage room. If I leave, I close the file. They'll eventually put someone else in there. So I stayed. At the public tribunal, hundreds gathered. The same people who once watched my father condemned, now watched me take the stand. I didn't begin with him. I began with everyone Blackridge had forgotten. Elian Moore, 17, trafficked. Rhea Vale, widowed. Her property was stolen. Jonas Bell, 14, disappeared after reporting an elder. Name after name. Silence became shame. Then Garrick was brought forward. Evidence proved he'd kidnapped me in exchange for the elders supporting his succession. His alpha title was stripped. Corvin removed their engagement ring before everyone. I won't marry a man who sells people for power. The elders were taken away in restraints. When the tribunal ended, Blackridge had another problem. No alpha, no legitimate counsel, no leadership. Everyone expected Roman to appoint one. He stepped onto the platform. "I've already chosen your interim representative." Several powerful alphas straightened. Roman ignored them. His eyes found me. Him. The courtyard erupted. "He's an Omega. He's a servant. He can't even shift." I felt every old insult returning. Roman started to speak. I touched his arm. "No." He looked at me. This time, I would answer for myself. I stepped toward the pack that had spent 26 years teaching me to stay invisible. And somewhere deep inside me, my wolf finally opened its eyes. "He's defective!" The word echoed across the courtyard. For 26 years, it would have made me lower my head. Not anymore. I stepped forward. If I'm so weak, I looked directly at the protesting elders. "Why are you afraid of me?" Silence. Then something moved beneath my skin. My wolf. Pain tore through my body. I dropped to my knees. "Sylvan!" Roman moved toward me. "Don't!" I could feel it now. Something that had spent years trapped inside me, finally breaking free. My bones shifted. My senses exploded. And when I opened my eyes again, the courtyard had become strangely small. Nobody spoke. Reflected in the packhouse windows stood an enormous wolf, silver-coated, powerful. Complete. Me. Roman stared. Not with fear, with recognition. Later, medical tests revealed something horrifying. My blood contained traces of experimental pheromone suppressants. Someone had been putting them in my food since childhood. "They suppressed your development," the doctor explained. "Your shifting ability, your scent, everything." My weakness had never been natural. It had been manufactured. Roman's expression turned murderous. "They knew what you could become." I looked toward the remaining council members. All those years of laughter, all those whispers. They hadn't mocked me because I was powerless. They'd made me powerless because they were afraid. The following morning, Roman gathered Blackridge. He stood beside me. "Sylvan Reed will serve as interim pack representative." Voices immediately erupted. I raised my hand. "No." Roman turned toward me. The courtyard froze. "You don't want it?" he asked. "I do." I looked at the servants standing near the back, the widows, the forgotten families. But I'm finished having powerful alphas decide my future. Then I faced Blackridge. "If this pack wants me," my voice didn't shake, "they can choose me themselves." For perhaps the first time in Blackridge history, an Omega wasn't waiting for an alpha's permission to lead. And within days, every person the old council had tried to silence would finally receive something dangerous: a vote. Election day arrived beneath a silver dawn. For the first time in Blackridge history, rank didn't determine whose voice mattered. Servants voted, widows voted, Omegas voted. Families the old council had silenced for decades stood in the same line as powerful alphas. I expected resentment. What I didn't expect was the result: 87%. I'd won. The courtyard erupted. My hands trembled as people who once avoided my eyes began chanting, "Sylvan! Sylvan!" Roman stood away from the crowd. He didn't take credit. He simply smiled. Later, I found him beneath the old oak tree. "Why did you choose me?" Roman raised an eyebrow. "The first day, I stepped closer. You walked past every important person in Blackridge and stopped at a servant. Why? It wasn't because of your father. I waited. It wasn't the evidence either." "Then what?" Roman smiled. "Everyone in that courtyard was staring at me, except you." I remembered, the frightened stray pup hiding beneath the servant's table. "You were feeding him," Roman continued. "You thought nobody important was watching." I laughed softly. "And that impressed you?" "No." Roman stepped closer. "It told me who you were when there was nothing to gain." My heartbeat quickened. Then he stopped. No claiming. No command. No alpha authority. "I love you, Sylvan." The words were quiet. "But I won't choose your future for you." For most of my life, I'd wanted Garrick to choose me. Now the most powerful alpha I'd ever known stood before me. And gave me something greater. A choice. I reached for Roman's hand. "What if this time?" I smiled. "I want to be chosen." His fingers gently closed around mine. "Then I'll still ask what you want first." I looked toward Blackridge. My pack. My responsibility. My choice. For the first time, I wasn't somebody's outcast, or somebody's servant, or somebody's rejected Omega. I was Sylvan Reed. And before Roman ever chose me, I had finally chosen myself. 3 years later, Blackridge barely resembled the pack that once called me traitor's son. Every stolen inheritance was returned. Every trafficking victim we could find received compensation, and my father's name was finally cleared. A monument now stood in the courtyard where he'd been condemned. Elias Reed. He died protecting those without power. The elders who framed him lived long enough to see it. So did Garrick. Stripped of rank and inheritance, he spent his days completing restitution work for families harmed by the corruption he'd helped protect. The house stolen from my family was returned to me. I never moved in. Instead, I transformed it into a shelter for rejected Omegas, abandoned pups, and anyone escaping an abusive pack. Only one room remained unchanged. My old storage room. Tiny, cold, windowless. Above its doorway, I placed a plaque. No one lives here again. Years after Roman first walked into Blackridge, we stood together in that same courtyard. Hundreds gathered for our mating ceremony. But Roman didn't simply claim me. Before placing his mark, the most feared alpha in our world looked into my eyes. May I? One question. One choice. Everything I'd been denied my entire life. I remembered Garrick kissing me, only behind locked doors. The elders, deciding what I deserved. A pack, teaching me to remain invisible. Then I looked at Roman. Yes, his mark wasn't ownership. It was a promise made with permission. When the ceremony ended, I glanced toward the back of the courtyard. A frightened young Omega stood there, exactly where I once had. I walked toward him and held out my hand. Come sit at the front. His eyes widened. Me? I smiled. Especially you. Blackridge spent 26 years teaching me that nobody powerful would ever choose me. Then Roman did. But that wasn't my greatest victory, because by the time the most powerful alpha chose me, I had already chosen myself.